Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back here to today's edition of Intuitive Angling. And man, I really appreciate you guys making some time out of your day to hang with me a little bit and check the video out. I think it's going to be well worth your while in today's episode. Guys, today I'm going to show you the bait that I learned about back in 1969 when I was a little kid fishing with my dad and a friend of his. This is the bait that they used all throughout the late 60s and 70s to catch some hog bass down at Table Rock and Bull Shoals Lake here in Missouri. And it's still just as effective today under the right situation, specifically in the summertime. So I'm going to show you guys what it is, how to make it. You've got to make this rig yourself, and some tips and advice on how to fish it. Also, guys, just a quick invitation. I'd like to invite everybody out there to consider becoming a channel member here of Intuitive Angling. If you become a channel member, you get extra videos every week that aren't seen by the public and some access to my personal email address for your fishing questions. All you have to do is to go to my YouTube homepage and click the join button. It gives you all the info for that. Okay guys, I'm going to show you what this is, and then I'm going to show you how to make it and a little backstory. It's a 14-inch long plastic worm. Now, what the deal was, back in the late 60s and early 70s, my dad and his best friend, they did a lot of fishing. They did a lot of night fishing in the summertime of the year. And back then, you could buy these giant plastic worms. I don't know what's happened to them. You can't see them anymore. But these worms that my dad and his friend had, they were as big around as your thumb, and they were 14 inches long, 12 to 14 inches long, and they weighed about a pound. And they would take a gold beak hook. Back then, that's what they used to worm fish. It was like a hook about that big, maybe a 2 or 3 aught hook, and it was gold. It was a real short hook. And they would thread the thing on like way down into the middle of the worm, and it'd leave the hook exposed. And they'd throw it out there with no weight, or maybe even a tiny little split shot above it. And guys, they would catch monsters on this thing. And specifically, they did a lot of night fishing, but I've adapted it to fish some during the daytime. We're going to go over to it. So I'm going to show you the rig that I created here. Now, what I've done here, guys, is I've taken 2 Zoom Magnum trick worms. You guys don't know what a Magnum trick worm is here. I'll show you what it is. And I glued them together. There's the Magnum trick worm. I took 2 of them. When you put this together, guys, it makes the worm. This is 14-inch long worm. And even though it's a 14-inch long worm, it's a fairly small diameter, so it looks like a snake in the water. Guys, bass love snakes. It's like a 4 or 5 pound bass doesn't think anything about hitting a 14 or 15-inch long snake. They'll gobble them up all day long. But what you want to do with it, this is how I do it. Take a toothpick. This is how you rig it up. Take a toothpick and bust it off about like this. About this much is the toothpick here. And then take one of the trick worms here and insert this toothpick about halfway in it, like that. And then take the other part of the trick worm and go back in it like this. But before you do that, before you put the next one in there, take a lighter and heat it up a little bit. Not to where it burns the stick, but just you want to get it heated up just enough where it's sticky. And then put all that stuff together. Just push it together like that, and it holds together exactly perfect. Like I've got this. I've got the little toothpick in there, then I've glued it together. Sometimes you can take it and you can burn it with like a lighter once you put it in there, and that holds in place where it never comes apart. I've got it rigged up with a 3/0 straight shank Gamakatsu hook with no weight. Now, this worm is so heavy, when you throw this thing in the water, it falls about like this through the water. And the reason that you don't want to use a weight with it, you want to use just like this, because it falls fast enough. You can get it down into some pretty deep water in a hurry. And when you work it along the bank, the bottom, since it doesn't have a weight in it, it just looks like a dang snake going through the water. And you can pull it up and just sort of drag it along the bottom. And guys, there's 2 different scenarios where this thing's going to work in the summertime. Now, first of all, it is a summer bait. It's like, it works the best from June into September. My dad and a friend of his, they did most of their night fishing in June with this thing, and catching big ones on that. But what you want to do is, it's the best night bait that you can throw. If you guys like to fish at night in the month of August or all through the summertime, just rig you one of these up, 2 Magnum trick worms. I'll put my Tackle Warehouse link in the description where you can get the Magnum trick worms if you guys want to order some there. But just rig it just like that. in a dark color, like a June bug or a red bug color is the two best colors to use, and just get out there and fish it on main lake points. And you can get out there in 10 to 20 foot of water and throw this thing with no weight, and it gets down to the bottom pretty quick, and just sort of drag it along the bottom. You don't want to hop it, or you don't want to pump it like a worm. Just sort of drag it along the bottom. Looks like a big snake going down through there. And guys, they caught numerous 8 and 9 pounders in the summertime on this thing. I remember when I was a kid. But what I've done, since I don't really like to night fish. I used to night fish all the time, so I day fish. You can catch a lot of fish on this thing in the daytime if you do the same thing. Get out there on those main lake points in anywhere between 15 to 30 foot of water in the middle of the summer, and just throw this thing out there on those deep points. Just drag this thing, 15 to 30 foot deep. If you have some brush piles or drop-offs, it's gonna help, obviously. But the main thing, there's two elements about this thing that works good. Number one, the length of it, and number two is no weight. The no weight, guys, is critical to get this thing to work as far as the action on it. And when you put it in the water, wait till you see how this thing looks in the water. It looks like a dang snake in the water. 2 Magnum Zoom trick worms, just like that. And anyway, it's just something they don't see. A lot of times we've talked about summertime bass fish and how they like smaller lures, like smaller crankbaits and smaller spinner baits, but this is one exception. I have found when you're fishing deeper in the summertime, they react better to bigger lures. Those big swim baits, big worms like this, and these 14-inch worms, guys, they'll catch them. You'll catch a bunch of 2-pounders on it, but you'll also catch some 8 and 9s on it. So anyway, guys, give it a try. It's something they don't see every day, just something different to add to your arsenal if you didn't already have enough stuff to consider. But I guarantee it beats throwing a forward-facing minnow out there over 100 foot of water. You'll have a lot more fun doing it. So hope you guys are well. We'll talk later.